Have you ever heard a floorboard creak in an empty room or felt a cold breath on the back of your neck when no one was there? We always assume that we are the ones being haunted. We assume we are the victims. But what if we are the ones doing the haunting? Sound effect, a loud slam of a door, then total silence. What if the ghosts you are afraid of are actually the living, and you are the one who is dead? Welcome to Chapter 2, Turn Off the Lights. This is the story of a woman who loved her children so much, she killed them to save them. The year is 1945. The Second World War has just ended, leaving Europe broken and bleeding. But on the lonely, fog-covered island of Jersey, off the coast of France, time seems to have stopped completely. Standing alone in the mist is a massive Victorian mansion. It is beautiful, but it is cold. It is a house of shadows. Inside lives Grace Stewart. She is a woman of tight control, religious, strict, and constantly on edge. She is waiting for her husband Charles to return from the war, but deep down, she knows the letters stopped coming a long time ago. She is alone in this massive house with her two children, Anne and Nicholas. But this is not a normal family, and this is not a normal house. You see, the children suffer from a rare, terrible condition called xeroderma pigmentosum. They are allergic to the sunlight. If the sun touches their skin, they will break out in blisters, their throat will close, and they will suffocate in agony. Because of this, the house operates like a prison, or perhaps a tomb. Grace carries a master key ring at her waist at all times. The heavy jingle-jangle of those keys is the soundtrack of their lives. There is one rule that must never be broken, a rule that Grace repeats like a prayer: no door is to be opened before the previous one is closed. The house must remain in eternal twilight, curtains drawn, doors locked, a kingdom of darkness. One morning, 3 knocks echo through the heavy oak front door. Knock, knock, knock. Grace opens it to find 3 figures standing in the swirling fog. There is Mrs. Mills, a motherly older woman with a kind face, Mr. Tuttle, an old, weathered gardener, and Lydia, a young girl who is mute. She cannot speak. They are looking for work. Grace is desperate. Her previous servants vanished without a trace. They didn't even ask for their wages. They just left in the middle of the night. Grace hires the trio immediately, but she gives them a stern warning. The silence is vital, she tells them, and the light is the enemy. Mrs. Mills smiles. It's a strange smile. We know the house, ma'am, she says softly. We've served here before. We know how to navigate the dark. There is something off about them. Mr. Tuttle spends his days staring at the dead leaves in the garden. Lydia, the mute girl, watches Grace with wide, terrified eyes. And Mrs. Mills, she seems to know things she shouldn't. She doesn't fear the house. She walks through it as if she owns it. Grace tries to maintain order. She teaches the children religion, reading from the Bible about the horrors of hell, specifically limbo, the place where children go when they are not good, but not evil, a place of eternal nothingness. Little does she know, she is describing her own reality. The haunting begins not with a scream, but with a whisper Grace is in the kitchen when she hears Anne, her daughter, talking in the empty classroom. Grace listens at the door. Anne isn't talking to herself. She is having a conversation. Grace bursts in. "Who are you talking to, Anne?" Anne looks up, her face pale but calm. "To Victor, Mama." "There is no Victor," Grace snaps. "Yes, there is," Anne insists. "He is a boy. He says this is his house. He says we are in his way." Grace punishes the child for lying, but the seed of fear is planted. That night, the house begins to wake up. Grace is sitting by the fireplace, sewing in the dim candlelight. The silence is absolute. Then, from the floor above, the room she just locked, comes a sound. Thump, drag, thump. It sounds like heavy furniture being dragged across the floor. Grace freezes. She grabs the master keys. She runs up the stairs, her heart hammering against her ribs. She unlocks the door and throws it open. The room is empty. The furniture is covered in white dust sheets. Nothing has moved, but as she turns to leave, she sees it. The white sheet covering the piano is slowly sliding off, inch by inch, as if an invisible hand is pulling it down. Grace gasps. She runs to the window. The window is unlocked. "Mrs. Mills," she screams, "you left the window open." She blames the servants. She has to, because if it wasn't the servants, then who is in the house? The paranoia eats Grace alive. She starts carrying a shotgun. She checks every lock twice, but the intruders, as Anne calls them, are getting bolder. A few days later, music fills the house. A piano, playing a sad, melancholic melody. The exact same melody Grace used to play before the war. Grace grabs the shotgun. She marches to the music room. The music is loud, real. Someone is in there. She kicks the door open, aiming the gun. The music stops instantly. The room is empty, but the piano lid is open, and the stool is warm. Grace can't take it anymore. She decides she needs help. She needs the priest. She needs to bless the house. She tells the gardener, Mr. Tuttle, to check the graves at the local cemetery. But Mr. Tuttle says something strange. "The earth is hard, ma'am. The dead, they don't like to be disturbed." Grace ignores him. She puts on her coat and runs out into the fog. The fog on the island is unnatural. It is so thick you cannot see your own hand in front of your face. Grace runs, panicked, getting lost in the white void. Suddenly, a figure emerges from the mist. A man. It is Charles, her husband. He is standing there, staring at nothing. He looks exhausted, his uniform muddy, his eyes hollow. He looks like a shell of a man. Grace hugs him, weeping. "You came back. You finally came back." Charles doesn't hug her back. He just nods slowly. "I was looking for my home." She leads him back to the mansion. But Charles is different. He spends his time sitting in the bedroom, staring at the wall. "Where are the children?" he asks quietly. "They are here, Charles. They are safe," Grace says. Charles looks at her with infinite sadness. "Safe? Grace, tell me what happened that day." Grace freezes. "What day?" "The day you lost your mind." Voices, not whispers anymore. Dozens of voices, men, women, and a strange, rhythmic sound. It sounds like a pen scratching on paper. Grace runs to the servants' quarters, looking for answers. She finds an old photograph album under Mrs. Mills's mattress. It is a Victorian Book of the Dead. Photos taken of people after they died, posed to look alive. She flips to the last page. Her blood turns to ice. It is a photo of 3 people lying in coffins: Mrs. Mills, Mr. Tuttle, and Lydia. The date on the photo is 1891. They didn't just work here before. They died here 50 years ago. Tuberculosis. Grace realizes she has been living with ghosts the entire time. Grace runs back to the main house. The voices are coming from the upstairs bedroom. She bursts in, and for the first time, she sees them, the intruders. But they aren't monsters. They are a modern family. A father, a mother, and an old woman with blind, milky eyes. They are sitting around a table, holding hands. It is a seance. The old blind woman is the medium. She is speaking in a trance. Grace screams at them, "Get out of my house." She shakes the table. She throws papers into the air. But the family, they don't see her. They only feel a cold breeze. They only see the papers floating. "She is here," the old blind woman whispers. "The spirit is angry." Grace stops. "Spirit? I am not a spirit." Grace cries, "I am flesh and blood." The blind woman tilts her head. Ask her what happened to the children." The modern father speaks up, terrified. "Why did you kill them?" The question hangs in the air like a guillotine blade. Grace falls to her knees. No, I loved them." And then the memory returns. The mental block shatters. Grace remembers the day the isolation became too much, the day the madness took her. She remembers taking the pillow. She remembers walking into the children's room while they slept. She remembers pressing the pillow down over their faces until the thrashing stopped. And then she remembers taking the rifle, putting the barrel against her own forehead, and pulling the trigger. Grace looks at her hands. They are trembling. She looks at her children. They are standing there, watching her. They know. They have always known. "Mother," Anne whispers. "We aren't asleep, are we?" Grace sobs. "No, we are dead." The family at the table, the living family who moved into the house, cannot take it anymore. Terrified by the poltergeist activity, they flee. They pack their bags and drive away that very night. Silence falls over the mansion once again. Grace sits on the floor with Anne and Nicholas. The sun begins to rise, but this time they don't hide. Anne walks to the window. The bright morning light hits her face. She waits for the pain. She waits for the blisters, but nothing happens. She turns to her mother, smiling. "It doesn't hurt, Mama. The light, it doesn't hurt anymore. Because ghosts cannot feel pain. Ghosts cannot die." Grace pulls her children close. The fear is gone. The paranoia is gone. They are alone. The living have left. The house is theirs again. "This is our house," Grace whispers, her voice echoing in the empty hall. "And no one will ever make us leave." The camera pulls back, out of the window, through the iron gates. A "for sale" sign hangs on the gate, swallowed by the fog. The world moves on, but inside the house, the curtains are open, and the dead are finally at peace. So, the next time you hear a noise in your house, and you shout, "Is anyone there?" and nobody answers, don't be afraid of the intruder. Be afraid that the intruder is you. This has been Chapter 2 of the horror story. Sweet dreams.